My first idea wasn't to join the British Army.
Okay.
I joined the British Army because of the circumstances that found me at that particular moment in time.
Yeah.
I was a professional footballer. I played for Kenya Commercial Bank. I was playing for Tusker Football Club. In fact, we had just played an Africa Champions League match the day I was approached by a cop here in Kenya about his cousin who had joined the British Army. But now, the reason why he told me that is because when I was playing football, I was still a matatu driver, part-time, and I was skipping guns for thieves on the side. So when their names started popping out, my name popped up too. And this guy who was a cop, he was a very good friend of mine. He knew me, and he knew the type of person I was. He knew I was doing that because I was desperate to make money. I was very young, and that's something that I do regret what I was doing, but it's also a blessing that I got another opportunity to show other people or to show my parents that I can actually do something with my life and help them as well.
But it takes a special kind of spirit. Najua kuna mtu anawatch, so all our thieves can join the British Army. No, it takes a special kind of spirit. So what was the process like for you to join the army? As in, yes, you were advised.
Yeah.
What are the steps you followed to find yourself? They didn't do a background check, say, with the Kenyan police in that case?
No, they didn't do a background check. But remember, during that time when I was applying, 2004, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, all the way up to around 2013, that's when Iraq and Afghanistan was really hot. And so they needed
courage.
They needed, not courage, they needed to add numbers because people were dying left, right, and center during the wars back in Iraq and Afghanistan. So because the British colonized Kenya and all the Commonwealth countries, they were allowing us to apply and you join. But for me now, it was quite quickly because the documents that I sent, they saw that I was a footballer, so that means they knew I was physically fit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and you have to send your medical as well.
Yes.
And then I had to send my good conduct. But now my good conduct, since I was an armory keeping things for thieves, they didn't do a background check. Because now my name hadn't popped up in the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like they took you from the football pitch to Iraq direct. As in when you signed up, you signed up from shooting and scoring goals, and then sasa one moment then.
Once you finish training, that's you a soldier now. They send you to wherever you're supposed to be. And since I joined an infantry battalion,
yes,
in Iraq straight away, you go 7 months, come back, then Afghanistan again.
After training, you go to Iraq for 7 months?
Yeah, you go to anywhere now. Let's say if your battalion now, if your battalion have been told they're going to Iraq or Afghanistan, yes, that's where you'll be deployed, straight from training.
Okay.
So that's what happened to me.
Were you scared?
To be honest, I was scared when the first round hit the wall next to me.
Round in the risasi?
Yeah.
Yes.
The bullet, yeah.
The first time?
The first time when I deployed.
Which day was this? Like, hey, you've landed in Iraq? And
now, the day now you're being told you're going for patrol. So when we went out on patrol, that's when I realized this is not a video game or a movie. This is real life.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So, as in, during the war,
yeah,
technically, you do get sometimes to just hang out. Like, hang out in the camp in Afghanistan, but then Niaje, you need to go brush your shoulders with death at some point just to remind you of what you're doing. Do you have such days? It was
no,
when it's war, it's war.
There's no chill out, because remember, even when you're in camp, they're still firing mortars to your camp.
Okay.
So this time when they're firing mortars, they know you're in camp.
Yes.
So you have to be alert 24/7.
Okay.
So there's no point where you're just going to say, I'm going to chill out. Unless if you're in a place called Camp Bastion, where it was a huge base now where all the soldiers meet. So you find the Americans are there, the Danish are there, the British are there, yeah, all the ISAF troops are there. So that camp is well guarded and well protected. When you go now for your mission, you go in a small base where now it's you protecting that camp, and you have to go for patrols as well.
And did you get to a point where, in this first mission that you went for, you get to a point you regretted that you'd rather just go back to being a goalkeeper?
I had so many moments like that where I was thinking to myself, what did I sign up for?
But then you think about the money.
But now you think, no, when such moments come to your head is because your friends are dying left, right, and center. People are being blown up. People are being shot. You have to make sure that when you're doing the patrol, you block your emotions and feelings. You make sure that person gets to the HLS now where he's going to be picked up, taken somewhere else, and then you continue with the patrol. So like nothing happened. So those moments are the ones that you start thinking, why did I sign up for this? But at the same time, if you start thinking, like someone like me was thinking, I would rather do this job than go back to Kenya, where I knew a situation was arising.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having served for that period, like this is people being shot left, right, and center. This is every day for 7 months.
Yeah, these are things that happen. They can even happen in front of your gate before even you go for patrol.
Whoa.
Yeah, because remember, you're fighting the Taliban. These are people who are ready to die.
And at that time, you are dealing with Osama directly.
That time, Osama was still alive.
Yes.
So he was conducting everything like normal.
Yes.
So you have to face the Taliban whether you like it or not. Sometimes you get ambushed. Now you have to start thinking about your training skills, how you're going to get out from that situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you having qualified to be drafted in the British Army,
Yeah.
were you in a position to come back in Kenya and tell them like, hey guys, would you give me a uniform because I'm qualified? As in, were you qualified to join the Kenya Army after you've served in the British Army?
No, you're not, because they are two different countries, and both of them, they have two different laws on how people are supposed to join their army.
Yes.
But for us, before we go to Iraq or Afghanistan, we used to come to Kenya and train in Samburu.
Okay.
So we train with the Kenyan army. So
Yes.
whatever we do, we try and teach them so that even them, when they're going either to Somalia or wherever they get deployed to, they can also use our skills, you know, when they're out there to try and save their lives, to protect their brothers and sisters who are beside them.
You are training with the Kenya Army in Samburu, for example.
Yes.
As in, and technically, like you could train with fellow Kenyans, but you represent the British.
No, like now, when we used to come to Kenya, because I could speak Swahili,
Yes.
and some of them, maybe the English was a bit of a problem,
Yes.
they would tell me if there's a command I need to pass to them, that's what I would do in Swahili. I would pass the command to them.
Okay.
This is what they've said. If we are doing maybe an exercise where now for example, there's a casualty and they don't understand the terms, maybe I would explain to them in Swahili. So that's how we were training with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Na British wakikosana na sisi, as in which team do you play for? As in, if yes, you're working for a different country, yes, and then there comes an issue between that country and your country, do you have to switch allegiance? Is that an option on the table, or you are?
When you say problems, an issue, do you mean when we are training with them, or just an issue between the two governments?
I think that's two level. That's a two-layered question.
Yeah.
Like, if someone got into your nerves,
Yeah.
would you beat them as a British, as in, you settle it as Kenyans?
You know, that's different because I've never been into that situation.
Okay.
But one thing that I would say about Kenyan troops and us working with them, is very respectful because our common goal is the same. We are training to go to a war. So this is your brother. So let's say if I fight with you right now and we go to Afghanistan and there's a situation, you might save my life.
Yeah.
So I have to look at it in two ways.
Yes.
So for me, such things wouldn't happen.
Yes.
You'd have disagreements and arguments. Maybe if you are supposed to shoot 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and maybe someone makes some mistake, you would tell them, look, this is how, try and aim your rifle this way. You know, those arguments are there, but I don't think it would get to a point where now you start fighting face, because you never know who's going to save your life at the end of the day.
It's interesting that you use the clock for shooting. And knowing Africans and keeping time, how was it training?
It was.
Would you tell someone 12 o'clock and they shoot 12:30? But anyway, that's on a light note.
Yeah, you know, using the clock is when you identify the enemy. When you identify the enemy, if I look straight in front of you, I would say that's 12 o'clock. If you're to my right, I would estimate either 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. You know, those are the time. Yeah. So you use the clock. So those are the terms that we just use.
But
so
you have to be specific. You can't go like, hey guys, lunchtime, as in you.
No.
You
So
have to.
you can't. Because now if I say 1 o'clock, I'm making aware my troops who are beside me that the enemy is 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. And I meant this on a diplomatic level. The first question on sparring or having an issue between different countries.
Yeah.
You are a Kenyan.
Yeah.
You've been drafted in another country.
Yeah.
And then there's a diplomatic issue between those two countries.
Yeah.
As a military man, do you get to patriotism or allegiance?
To be honest, at the end of the day, I would go to the person who's paying my salary at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, are there still opportunities, in your opinion, whereby Kenyans who are still interested can sign up to be shot on behalf of another country?
Right now, the British Army, what they've done is they're not recruiting Commonwealth people anymore. And that's because they're not...
There's no war.
There's no war anywhere if you look around. So I think it got to a point where I believe in my own belief is that Commonwealth people we were so many in their army.
Oh.
Yeah.
We were the ones who were not
because
dying.
remember, the British colonized so many countries. So there's Kenya, there's Fiji, there's Nigeria, there's Cameroon, there's Gambia, there's Ghana. So there's so many countries. So you can imagine all those countries, how many people they've recruited.
So does it mean when the war ends, you get fired because...
No, they wouldn't do that.
You could still serve the full term?
Yes, they wouldn't do that to you. They would by the time it gets to 5 years, you already have your citizenship.
Or if you serve for 5 years, you're a citizen?
Yeah, you get your citizenship. You apply for it and you get it.
Wow, that's interesting information.
Yeah.
Serving for 5 years in the British Army, then
you could get
automatic citizenship.
Yeah, you apply for it because you're qualified now.
You're now a Briton.
Yeah, you're qualified to apply for your citizenship. Yeah.
Wow,
so that's what many soldiers do.
That's interesting. So we can't promise. People shouldn't have any hope in terms of opportunities joining the.
I wouldn't say it shouldn't because you never know what might happen tomorrow.
Okay.
So they might change, and say they want to recruit, and their application is online, so you can just go there and have a look.
Wouldn't it be a point of argument that, oh, so you need us when people are being shot? As in, why can't you just recruit us? Why can't you just recruit us when there is no war so that we know that we are the people of just in case?
You know, something funny, Dr. Kingori, about that is so many Kenyans are going through a lot of trouble here.
Yes.
So when there's an opportunity like that, you don't think about the war. You think on how you're going to help your loved ones, your family, because people are struggling. Yes. Even right now when they've closed, I have so many people asking me, how can I apply? And I feel bad. Those opportunities are not there anymore because they've said, they've put on hold on that. They're not recruiting Commonwealth people anymore.
Yeah.
They're only recruiting someone who's Commonwealth if you've lived and stayed in the UK for 5 years.
And become a citizen.
And that's impossible. Those 5 years, you need to be a citizen already. So that's like just saying we are not recruiting.
Hey, okay. Hey, interesting. And when it comes to your experience serving there and the war having ended,
yeah.
One of our audience members had a question about what you feel about the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. What's your take on that move?
The
salary should have kept coming.
That's always emotional to me.
Okay.
That's because I've served with young guys who've come off training, 18 years old.
Yes, sir.
They come to the battlefield, someone gets shot or blown up. That's their life cut short.
Yes, sir.
So people have sacrificed a lot. People like us, we've been blown up, we've lost our limbs, we had very serious injuries. And for them just to do it like that, that means that whatever we were doing there was useless. You know, some of us have gone through a lot. So many parents are crying because their kids, they never came back home. And one thing about the military, they'll teach you how to go to war, but they'll never teach you how to come back home, if that makes sense.
It does, yes.
Because if you come back home, people like us, we're struggling through PTSD, where we can't sleep at night. We are thinking about the war, the things that happen to our friends. You know, you're in relationships, you can't handle a relationship properly. People are in marriages now. You know, when they get these serious injuries, the wives leave them, girlfriends leave them. You know, so it's very emotional because so many things have transpired to people that I know and have seen, and it hurts me that we can just give up like that and just say, okay, now the Taliban can take over. And yet these are the people that we've been fighting for so many years to try and get peace for those people who are there, the innocent people who are not, you know, Talibans. You know, now it's going to be very tough for the women back there. It's going to be very tough for the young ladies back there, because ladies now there, I don't think they will be able to go to school. They'll be just taken maybe at 14, 15. They get passed on to someone else that this is your husband, you know? So it's painful. It's really painful, a lot. And that's why I say, for me, the politicians messed us up completely. You know, we fight our demons every day. I fight my demons every day. People see me and they think that I'm okay. I'm not okay. You know, dreaming about the things that you've seen. And you know, when you're seeing these things, your mind is like a camera. It takes pictures and it records them. And it's hard for you, even if you're using tablets to try and sleep at night. There are days that if I'm back in the UK, there are days I go for 2 days without closing my eyes. Because sometimes I sleep and I think I'm being attacked by the Taliban. So I have to be ready all the time. So you see the damage it has caused, it's bad. And for them just to pull out like that, it's bad. It's not something that any veteran soldier or any soldier who's still serving, they will tell you that that's a good move. It's not.
No, I don't think there's any price for the sacrifice that soldiers make. We've had, say, Kenyan soldiers on the show, and I've actually even looked at them, and we even had a military psychologist to come talk to us about the process of going back home. And it will be reasonable for any reasonable human being to understand where the pain is, right? But maybe you can actually help us understand, was there hope for this war to be won if they continued staying?
For me, I think the best thing they would have done is sitting down with these groups and coming to an understanding, because everything that we do in life right now is about dialogue. If I have an argument with you, or if I'm mad at you or because I've done something, the best thing that I can do is come and sit down with you and we come to a conclusion. Okay, how can we help each other to be where we were before? And I think that's the best thing these governments would have done, to sit down and know, okay, this is what we need to do. But at the same time, me being in that country, they need help. There are people there who need serious help. You know, like the kids now. You know, kids are being used for bad things. Like, I would give you an example. Like, young boys, they'll be used as suicide bombers. At the age of 9 years, 10 years, that shouldn't be happening. So you try and imagine, if you try and switch that boy, you've robbed him his life. If you refusing girls to go to school, you've robbed them their lives, because they're also human beings. You know, so for me, I just feel they should have sat down, come to a conclusion and say, this is what we are going to do. But not just pull out like that. And then you sit down at home, you're watching news, you're seeing the way the Taliban are celebrating, firing their guns up. That boils me up. I feel like going back there again.
Yeah. And it's damaging on both sides, even watching a child as young as 9 being used as a suicide bomber, because that's a tough call for a soldier. You don't know whether to actually the last the special special forces officer we had of the show called it dispatching. You don't know whether to dispatch that kid or to actually leave them, which could leave you at risk and your team members. And if you actually dispatch them or actually shoot them, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. So these are split-second decisions that you have to live with. And
there are people who are living with that. There are people who've shot suicide bombers who are that age, you know, and they're living with that day to day, you know, and it's something they have kids too. So they're watching up their sons growing up, and then that reminds you that you took out a 9-year-old boy, but a 10-year-old. But when you're in the battlefield, that's a decision you've got to make.
And you've actually chosen a very interesting path after that, and you've changed a lot of lives by talking to people, by overcoming what you saw and what you experienced. Have you ever gotten, before we get to how you have been able to overcome it and then change other people's lives, because we celebrate you for that, but do you regret going there in the sense that if you got another job in the country and you didn't have to see that, probably your life will be different? Or having seen that, now you know what the world is like?
I think for me, I don't regret any single bit me joining the military and what happened to me. I think my life is much better right now with one leg. The way I got blown up opened up my eyes. It's a blessing that I'm able to go to places, schools, people calling me on my number, you know, people wanting to commit suicide, and I'm able to speak to them. If I wasn't in this position, I wouldn't be able to do that. And for me, I always say, God has a plan for everyone in this life. I was planning to become a professional footballer, to play in Europe. But that's not what God chose me to do. God chose me to go this road where I could pass through these things and get to a point where he could use me as a vessel to try and inspire other people and tell other people, regardless of whatever situation that you find yourself in life, you can still make it. You know, with the little that you're getting, you need to be content with it and make something out of it. So for me, it's a blessing.
So I would say that you live for the lives that you have changed and the lives that you are yet to change from your experience, right?
Absolutely.
That deserves an applause. No. God bless. God bless for the good work that you're doing. And if I could take you back, Kidogo, you got a chance to go to the UK, join the military, from a path that would have led you the wrong way. Right?
Yeah.
Say, for example, keeping guns for the criminals. They were your friends then?
Yeah, majority of them were my friends.
When you came back, did you find any of them alive?
I've never even wanted to ask, but through people that I know, connected, the ones who knew us, majority of them are not.
And knowing what you know, like being having had the experience of keeping guns for criminals, yet you would argue that you are not a born criminal.
Yeah.
Yes, right? What's your take on why people do crime?
Poverty.
Simple as that.
Nothing else. It's poverty.
So everyone that grabs a gun has a chance to chart a different course in life.
I will talk about my experience about what I was doing at that particular moment in time. I was trying to make a living and earning money in all ways. Remember, when I was playing for Kenya Commercial Bank, when you win, you get 800 shillings. When you draw, you get 400 shillings. Every day you get 50 shillings, right? When you lose, you don't get anything. We had people who were fathers who had to pay rent. I went to Tusker Football Club. I was being paid 14,000 that particular moment in time. That was in 2005, 2006. That time, I'm a young boy, damu yangu imechemka, nataka kwenda club, nataka kupeleka dimu yangu out, nataka pia nipige maji, nataka nipige veve. So, sina do. So pia mi nataka life. So, that's what drove me to do those things. And when you're keeping guns for the thieves, you actually don't even open the bag. You're just being told, keep this. May I get it, store it. As long as they paid me my money, that's it.
How much did you charge for just keeping the bag? Ni kitambo sana, ni kitambo. We are 3 governments after. Even the police officers from that time have retired. We interviewed one of them, yes.
So for me, walikuwa wananipatia 35,000
per day.
Anytime wanakuja kuchukua, they give me 35,000.
Whoa.
Yeah.
2005.
Yep.
Ni bag tu. Hata msiniambie nini iko ndani. But how did you know they were guns, as in?
Of course.
If you didn't open the bag.
They would, the first day they come and approach you, they would definitely show you what is inside the bag.
Whoa.
And remember that time when I would see something like that, I would freak out. You know, so they showed me the first day and I knew, okay, this is not something that I would want to open and play around with it. Because I was afraid of guns then. You know?
Yes.
So I knew the contents that were inside. But I wouldn't, at my own time, knowing the bag is there, I open it and start looking. No, I wouldn't do that.
And it doesn't last.
Because at the end of the day, you've got to remember, these are guns. You don't know whether it's loaded. You don't know whether there's a bullet in the chamber. You don't know. So if you try and open it and start playing around with it, you don't know what might happen.
You didn't even do it on my posts.
No. But now when I joined the British Army, I knew everything about weapons, even advanced weapons weapons that people have just seen them in the movies.
Okay. So did you know the risks that you are taking by keeping the guns then?
I didn't know because I was young. All I cared about was the money. I didn't know the risks. I'll be honest with you.
But I'm thinking, in 2005, if you kept the guns like 100 times, let's say within 1 year, you have a house. Did you fall in the class of poverty then?
No, you know, the thing is this: when you're getting money in a way that you're not illegally, for me, that money doesn't stay. You'll end up finding yourself using that money doing just some things which don't even make sense. So if I have 35,000 Kenyan shillings and I know my friends wako ghetto, what is the best thing ndafanya? Ndawapigia simu, ni aje majama, leo niko na ganji, twendeni rege, na chafua meza. Siyo do imeisha
yote.
Then mimi kesho nikienda niweke hiyo bag, najua ganji ingine itaingia. Nikipata hiyo do niseme okay, nione beste yangu pengine ana viatu, mabeste zangu wana manguo na wako ghetto, what do I do? Majama, twendeni tubai manguo. So that's what I would do. There's no single time you'd sit down and say, let me save this money. Nah.
And as an expert in counseling and talking to people, what do you say to that gentleman watching us right now anajiambia, mimi nikilipo 35k nita invest. Nikieka hizo bunduki kama 50 times, imenitosha kununua kashamba, alafu niache. What do you say to that person?
No, to be honest, I would say to that person not to even think about that at all. Try and find something legit to do. Don't do what you're seeing other people doing. Don't do what I did. Because at the end of the day, you can still save with as little as you have.
Okay.
For me, there are people I know who even save £1 every single time. I do the same too. I put the £1 to the side knowing this is an investment. So you can save with the little you have. You don't have to sit somewhere and do things which are illegal and you know these things are going to maybe to hurt other people for you to earn the income. I would say that's not a good idea. Just look for something legal. Even if you're earning 10,000, 5,000, you can still invest that money.
And weren't you ever tempted, ukiweka bunduki and they give you 35,000, weren't you like, kama ni mimi wamenipea 35? Huko mali wametoka na ngapi? Didn't you ever do such kind of math?
Now that's the thing with when you're doing such things.
Yes.
You shut your brain to that. You shut your mind to that.
Yes.
Because you can't start thinking how much they've made. You can't start thinking that. Because if you start thinking like that, then you'll find yourself carrying that gun going out there to do what they've done. So for me, I never used to think like that.
Okay.
Me, as long as I had my 35,000 and I had the little money that I was making, driving the matatu here, and my salary, I was fine.
Looking at you at that age, I'd like to say, if you allow me, that you were the most disciplined, greedy person I could have met. As in, you were greedy with principles. Like, Niaji, this is where, and most people don't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
The good thing is you live to talk about it.
Yeah.
You talk to high school students, you talk to people from different classes of life.
Yeah.
And if there's one story, one of the most touching stories is how you overcame losing a leg to be in a position where you can talk to someone to change certain aspects of your life.
Yeah.
You've paid the price for humanity in very many different ways. And sitting here with you, I think it's an honor, by the way, and I'm very honored. And in your experience dealing with people, you've shared your personal story, having it at the center stage. I believe there are people who are watching this show and they are mad at me, wanasikia kunichinja, because I didn't get to ask about the story of how you lost your leg. Would you be kind enough to share it? Ama mko sawa? Mnataka kujua? Because you've talked about, oh, my leg was blown up. Please.